Perfect. So now we're gonna start recording our first workshop here online. So if you have clicked the link that we have here posted to the challenge page, you should be at this website right here. Please follow along with my screen if you're lost. This link was posted right in the chat by Francisco. So this is the page where we're going to. We're going to scroll down to the bottom here. And that first section there that's labeled Android, we want to focus on this section here. So the link I want you to click is going to be right here, this first Android app. And it should bring you to a page like this. Awesome. I would assume everyone's here now. All right, so this is the welcome page, and this is going to be the course and the workshop we're doing to build our first Android app in Java. So once again, thank you guys for joining. Welcome. So in this code lab, you will learn how to build and run your first Android app in the Java programming language. This all details here, what you must know already, so have some understanding of Java. You want to be able to, if you have zero experience in Java, we'll try to explain as much as possible because I know there are people who aren't computer science majors in this call. But for the most part, everyone that is a computer science major, you should have no problems understanding the Java portion. Today, what you're going to learn is going to be how to use Android Studio to build your app, how to run your app on a device or in an emulator, how to add interactive buttons, how to display a second screen when a button is pressed. Use Android Studio and Java to write Android apps. You write Android apps in the Java programming language using an IDE called Android Studio. It's based on JetBrains IntelliJ IDEA software. Android Studio is an IDE designed specifically for Android development. So this is what we're going to be using today. We're going to click this button next right here. And right now we're going to install Android Studio on our computers. So that way we'll be able to build this app. Some important things to note. It's going to require for this code lab right here, it states that it has to be Android 3.6 or higher, which I'm sure will be the one that we're downloading as soon as you click the download. And right here are the steps to downloading it. So what I want you to do is to navigate to the Android Studio download page and follow the instructions to download and install. I have it already on my computer, but I'll try to go through as much as possible where we're going to go. So let's see if we click this page here, where that brings us. Perfect. As you see, it's 3.6. For Windows, if you have Mac, I think there is a Mac version and it'll say that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're going to click this link and it should begin your download just like any other software download in your computer. So once you begin downloading, you want to accept the default configurations for all the steps. You want to ensure all components are selected for installation. Basically just follow straight through like any other software you download on your computer. And once everyone has that downloaded, please go begin using Android Studio. Looks like there's licensing agreements, so you want to make sure you click that. If you haven't done so already and you have it already installed, go ahead and click next now, and we'll be on this page. This is going to be the tab where we create our very first project.
Excuse me, we have to push start a new Android Studio project.
Not yet. We're going to do that together.
Okay.
That'll be our step 1, and we'll go through that together. So what you will learn today, I'm going to read this little portion right here. What you'll learn is how to create a project in Android Studio, how to create an emulated Android device, how to run your app on an emulator, and how to run your app on your own physical device if you have one. I'm going to skip that last portion of how to run on your own physical device only because I don't know if everyone, first of all, has an Android phone. I don't. I have an Apple iPhone. And either way, you can always come back to this if you want to try running your program on your actual physical phone device. But we will show how to run it on an emulator. For those of you who are computer science majors, or even if you are and you don't know what an emulator is, it's basically a software that's going to emulate, keyword emulate, what your app is going to be functioning through your phone. It will basically mirror exactly the way that your app is going to work through a software, so you can see it in real time without needing a physical device. All right, so let's begin. All right, so here we're going to create our first project. So in this step, you will create a new Android project for your first app. The simple app displays the string hello world on the screen of an Android virtual or physical device, in this case virtual. Here's what this app's going to look like when we're done, right here. I already went over what you will learn, but just so you can reiterate, or I can reiterate, we are going to create a project in Android Studio. We're going to create an emulated Android device, and we're going to run the app on our emulator, skipping that fourth one. So if you haven't done so already, we should all see this portion right here. So Android Studio should be opened. If you haven't done so yet, please open it, and it'll look similar to mine like this. All right. So as you open Android Studio, in the Welcome to Android Studio dialog, we're going to click Start a new Android Studio project. It's that first section right there. After you click that button, it should lead you to this Select a Project template. This box should open. What you want to do is highlight Basic Activity. This isn't the default one. Empty activity is your default, but we're going to go ahead and click on Basic Activity for this course. Click Next. Should be on this screen for configuring your project. Here we're going to make sure our language is set to Java. We're also going to name our project. We're going to name this application My First App. So, yep. So My First App. As such, make sure your language is Java here. And once you do that, you click Finish. And then your project should be building. It's going to look just like this. It's going to say Loading Project. What's happening here is it's building through something called the Gradle, and it's loading all your plugins for your first Android app. So while this loads, it's going to take some time. We'll wait. So what have we done so far? We have created a folder for your Android Studio project called My First App. Um, this is usually in a folder called Android Studio Projects below your home directory. It's building our project right now. As it states right here, this may take a few moments. Android Studio uses a Gradle as its build system, which is what I stated. You can follow the build progress at the bottom of the Android Studio window. And it opens the code editor showing of your project.
Fine, but
Excuse me, Antonio. I have something tip of the day. What should I choose when I see this one? I have three option. Next tip, previous tip, close. Which one should I choose? Close?
yes.
Update for plugin, yeah, just close that. You don't have
No,
to.
it's tip of the day.
Oh yeah, close the tip of the day. You don't need to worry
Okay,
about that.
thank you.
That opens anytime you open Android Studio. So if you've opened Android Studio, you should have a page similar to what I have on my screen. Yep. Go back here. So step 2 is getting your screen set up. When your project first opens in Android Studio, there may be a lot of windows and panes open. This is a Gradle window. If it's open, you can click this minus symbol in the top right to close it. I don't think it opened for anybody, but basically, if you had your Gradle window open or your Android Studio open like this, all you have to do is click this button here, and it'll hide it, and then you'll be where I'm at. Perfect. So we're going to explore some of the project structure and layout. The upper left of the Android Studio window should look similar to this diagram right here. There's 1, 2, and 3. There's this app drop-down menu. There's a project on the side, and then it should state Android at the top bar. So if you look at my cursor, here's Android. Here's going to be your project, and then your app drop-down. So since we selected basic activity, there's a couple files that Android has created for us. And one is a project view. Project view shows your files and folders structured in a way that is convenient for working with an Android project. So let's double click app if it isn't already expanded. So this is app right here. These are going to be all the different files that Android Studio has already created for you. There's a manifest file, this is for Java. We don't have to worry about that. I'm sorry, this is for Android Studio. Then we have our Java files, which is going to be where we put in our Java code. For example, right here, as we see, this is where we create a view, which we'll discuss what that means later. And our Java code will be placed in these methods here. Those who are not computer sciences majors, method is basically a container with code so that our code or what we're trying to build will act in the way and follow the code that we have for it to behave, basically. Great. All right, so then also we have here is our res folder. This is our design folder. This is our front end. So this will be where it tells us our layout. This is our layout right here. This is what the app is currently, if you were to open it, what it would look like. And these are all detailed within our attributes. So if you've taken web development, these are some of the similar words in web development, where you have your attributes, which is your design. So, width, height, background, font, all those kinds of, terms, very similar to web development. That's where you do your designing in your res folder. Java is going to be where you do your code and how your app is going to behave, and your res folder will be its presentation, the way it looks. Let's go back here. If you click project, you can hide and show project view. You might need to select view windows option. The current project view selection is project Android. Let's see what they're saying here. So this right here is the project view. So right now we're creating this project, correct? So that's what this tab is for. If you are looking at something else, it'll be, you know, this is your resources, and we don't need to go over this right now, but just know that this is your view for your project in its entirety. Android is where it details that this is an Android project, which is what we're currently working on. So that's what those two tabs are. That's what they represent, and that's what this is discussing. There's a manifest file, as I described earlier. It's just the components of your Android app. It lets your Android read whatever it is that you're putting into the Android Studio. So when you start running your app, that manifest file is also read to be able to open it. So as I had described, this is the expand Java folder section, and we talked about what it is. The first one is the folder that contains the Java source code for your file app. So that's this right here. This file right here that contains the source code. The second one, this is the folder where you would put your instrumented tests, which are tests that run on the Android device. Don't need to worry about that right now. This folder is where you will put, this is all part of the test, we don't need to worry about that. Expand the res folder, which we already discussed. Drawable is all your app's images. So if we're importing an image, for example, we're going to be importing the Play Beacon image into our app when we start developing that. So this drawable folder is going to be where that image is stored for our app. Drawable. Right here in the res folder. I'm going to go ahead and close the Java down and the manifest down. So right here at the res folder, drawable. Layout. This folder contains the UI layout files for your activities. Currently, your app has one activity that has a layout file called activity main. It also contains content main, fragment first, and fragment second. It should all be there and already created for you. Your layout, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the menu, this folder contains files describing any menus in our app. So this just details the menu and the design of the menu. A lot of this is preloaded. You don't have to do anything until you want to change the menu. That's where you will do it. Minimap or MIP map, sorry. This folder contains the launcher icons for your app. So that's like the icon for when you click it to launch. There's a preset one for all of this, and obviously you can change it. That's where you will do it. Then there's also the navigation folder. This folder contains a navigation graph, and this tells Android Studio how to navigate between different parts of your application. So when you click a button and you want it to go to a different page, that's where that is set up at. And we'll go over navigation later. Values, this folder contains resources such as strings, colors used in your app. So let's go back to Android here. Here are those folders here, nav graph, values. So if I want to click values, color, XML, this is kind of like your HTML file when you're creating websites or web development, and you see how the brackets are very similar to that. You can change your color here manually, but there's also ways to change it within our layout, as you'll see. I'll show you later. But this is how your colors are shown, dimensions, and this is sort of like for those web developers to kind of run their code and work their same code just like if they were making an HTML document. There's many different ways you can code this, as you'll see. Well, I won't say many, but a few. Few options for you. I'm going to close all these windows down. Okay, so going over those files, we did. Step 4, we're going to create a virtual device. This is what the emulator that I was talking about earlier. So in this task, you will use the Android Virtual Device Manager to create a virtual device that simulates the configuration for a particular type of Android device. So the first step is to create a configuration that describes your virtual device. So in these 5 steps, we'll go over them. First, you're going to go into Android Studio, select Tools, Avd Manager, or click the Avd Manager icon in the toolbar, which looks like a little phone and the Android alien head here. But I'll do it through the Select Tools and Avd Manager. So up here you have Tools. That's first box is going to be your Avd Manager. Go ahead and click that. You should be right here. These are your virtual devices that have been set up in Android Studio. Okay, number 2. Click the plus create virtual device. If you have a created virtual device before, the window shows all your existing devices, which I do. So it shows my one device that I've created before. But if this is your first time, obviously you don't have one. Alright, so then select hardware window shows a list of pre-configured hardware device definitions. So number 3 is you're going to choose a device definition, such as a Pixel 2, and click Next. It doesn't really matter as it states here which one you pick, but just pick Pixel 2. That's what I have. So let me go back here. Sorry. Create virtual device. Pixel 2. Click Next. That should create your Pixel 2 virtual device. It should say in the system image dialog from the recommended tab, choose the latest release. Doesn't matter, but just choose it. If a download link is visible next to the latest release, it's not installed yet. Okay, this is about downloading the latest release. Don't worry about it. Just click Next and get one set up. 6, in the dialog box, accept the defaults and click Finish. Now the Avd Manager should show your device. If your virtual devices Avd Manager window is still open, go ahead and close it. So we can close this. You should have, after you created it, a device there. Then you can close it. Now we're going to run this app. So in Android Studio, you're going to select Run App, or click the Run icon in the toolbar. This icon will change when your app is already running. And it'll look like this. So let's go ahead and go to Android Studio. This is the play button right here. And you can also run it through this side. But I'm just going to go ahead and click play. You could run from this section here. You would click Run, then Run App. So
Excuse me, I cannot create the emulator. I don't know why when I go to the values and it doesn't show me anything.
okay, can you share your screen?
Sure.
Okay, so for the rest of you guys, this does take a while to build. As you see, mine is still building. But you should have something pop up like this, and it's still building. Once it's finished, it'll just let it build. It's going to take its time. And then here we are. The app should pop open like this. And this is your emulator. This will show exactly from whatever code you have inside your Android app. It'll represent that code within this app or emulator right here. So you should see this when you run it.
My YouTube. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, could you please a little bit help me for in the values now?
Well, we didn't enter any values. All we were doing was creating a emulator. If you go back to watching my screen, what we did was
Okay.
Where
Sure.
was it?
Tools.
Yeah. What steps were it? Let me go back to this first. Creating a virtual device. In this section right here, step 4 is where you weren't able to create it. So here, I'll do it real fast. Are you looking at my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, right here in Tools, you want to go to Avd Manager,
Okay.
and at the bottom it should it should have a plus sign with Create Virtual Device.
Could you please show me? I cannot see.
Right here, do you see my screen, or you want me to look at your screen?
No, no, in your screen.
Did you click
In your,
Tools
yeah.
and you clicked AVD Device Manager? AVD Manager?
No.
It should look like this in if you look at my screen.
Yeah. Okay. I can see a little bit different. Is it your? Do you have a Mac or any
Yeah,
other laptop? Because I think it is a little bit different.
it might be because I am doing this on PC, but you would want to find the equivalent to where it says AVD Manager. It should be in your tools either way.
But I cannot see. Can I show you my screen?
Sure. Okay, scroll all the way to the top of your computer. Do you see that bar that says where your Apple is? You see Android Studio,
Yeah, yeah,
File,
here,
Edit.
yeah,
Go all
fine,
the way
yeah.
down. Go all the way over to Tools.
To the tool.
Yeah, scroll. Yeah, that's File. Not there. Click out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Click out of that. Click out of that. You don't need to be in File.
Okay. Which one? In
Okay.
the
All right. Click Android Studio again. Click on Android Studio.
and
Go
now.
up. Now don't click File. All
Uh-huh.
the way on the side. If you keep going from File, Edit, View, Navigate, Code, Analyze,
Okay.
Tools, right there.
Right, yeah.
AVD Manager, the first one.
Okay.
Create virtual device.
And
Click
now click control.
yeah. Next. Okay. You're gonna just click the download there.
The first one?
Yeah, that's fine. And click next. All right, so that's downloading, and once that downloads, it should let you click the next feature in the other window, and it should show up in your devices. Okay?
Okay.
So that
Thank you.
window right there, the VDC, you'll click next once that's finished downloading, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. All right. All right, so to everyone else, thank you for waiting there. Have you guys opened the emulator and this popped up? Okay. It should have popped up by now. So here's step 7. So it wants us to explore the app template. When you created the project and selected basic activity, Android Studio set up a number of files, folders, and also user interface elements for you. So you can start out with a working app and major components in place. This makes it easier to build your application. So looking at your app on the emulator or your device, in addition to the next button, notice there's a floating action button with a email icon. If you tap that button, you'll see it has been set up to briefly show a message at the bottom of the screen. This message space is called a snack bar, and it's one of several ways to notify users of your app with brief information. So it just basically you click that, and it has the action to give a message. This is a feature within this generated app. At the top of the screen, there's a menu with 3 vertical dots. If you tap that, you'll see that Android Studio has also created an options menu with a settings icon. Choose settings doesn't do anything yet, but having it set up for you makes it easier to add user configurable settings to your app. Later in this code lab, you will look at the next button and modify the way it looks and what it does. There's the 3 buttons here. Settings. There's nothing there yet, but it's already set up for us. Alright, so we're going to click next. Exploring the layout editor. Generally, each screen in your Android app is associated with 1 or more fragments. The single screen displaying Hello First fragment is created by one fragment called First Fragment. This was generated for you when you created your new project. Each visible fragment in an Android app has a layout that defines the user interface for the fragment. Android Studio has a layout editor where you can create and define layouts. Layouts are defined in XML. These highlighted words here, by the way, if you don't understand what they mean, feel free to click them. I think they'll send you to a definition. And it'll explain it to you. The layout editor lets you define and modify your layout either by coding XML or by using Interactive Visual Editor. Every element in a layout is a view. In this task, you will explore some of the panels in the layout editor and you will learn how to change properties of views. So what you'll learn in this section here is how to use a layout editor, how to set property values, how to add string resources, and how to add color resources. Step 1. Find and open the layout folder. So app res layout on the left side, which we went over. App folder, res folder, layout folder. We're going to double click fragment first. As I had stated before, the Hello First fragment was inside of fragment first. We're going to go over where we're looking at, and so you'll understand each window that is presented to you within Android Studio. So the panels to the right of Project View comprise the layout editor. They may be arranged differently in your version depending on whichever version you have, but the function is the same. So on the left is a palette, it's number 1, of views you can hold or you can add to your app. Right here is your palette. So Android, close this. This is your palette right here, this section. Number 2 is your component tree. This is going to show the views currently in this file and how they are arranged in relation to each other. Right here, component tree. We have a text view, so the first thing we have is a text, as you see. And then we also have a button here, so that's your button. And this is how you edit the text on your screen, and this is how you edit this button. So if I wanted to change the background color, or I wanted to make it bigger, or change the text, that's where you would click this, and then you would begin in this panel over here, which is your attributes. We'll get to attributes at 4. The middle section is your design editor. Right here, right in the center, the design editor shows a visual representation of what the contents of the file will look like when compiled into the Android app. You can view this visual representation in XML code or both. What that means is you have the option to see, this is your visual This is showing what it's going to look like. If you click this button up here, this shows what your app's going to look like plus the code. Or you can just look at your code. This is your code similar to writing HTML, as you can see. So if I wanted to change something here and wanted to see it right away, that will be how you can see what you're typing. Right here, as you can see, just like if you've done any HTML, here's a container for a text view. That's the hello fragment, hello first fragment. And we look right here, the text right here, Android text at string hello first fragment. That's what it says right here. Let me go back to this. So those are your two windows. Okay. Go back to this. And that's where I just discussed the upper right hand corner is design editor, and it shows the three icons for the different attributes and how you can look at it. Those are actually called code, split, design. So we went through showing the different modes. I'm going to leave it at design. At the lower right hand of your design editor, you say plus and a minus button for zooming in and out. Use these buttons to adjust the sizes of what you see. Or you can click the zoom to fit button so that both panels fit your screen. That's down here. Number 6, they want us to practice using the layout menu in the top left of the design toolbar to display the design view, the blueprint view, and both views side by side. Let's see. Use the orientation icon to change the orientation of the layout. This allows you to test how your layout will fit portrait and landscape. It's like when you change or you flip your phone. You want to see how everything layers out. Just showing you that feature there. Number 8, use the device menu to view the layout on different devices. This is extremely useful for testing. Obviously, many people have different phones. You don't have to do that right now, but it's an option for when we're creating the app. It's good to know that it's there. So whenever you're coding, you want to make sure that it's uniform to the different phones that are out there. It even has TV even. But it'll show you how the layout is for each phone. Moving on. Okay, so the attributes panel says we'll learn about it later. Step 2, explore and resize the component tree. All right, so number 1, in fragment first in XML or in fragment first.xml, look at the component tree. If it is not showing, switch the mode to design instead of split or code. This is your component tree. You should have that window there. This panel shows the view hierarchy as we had discussed. So we have our text first and then our button. This talks about resizing it. You can hide it. you can close it. Step 3, exploring view hierarchies. Within the component tree, notice that the root of the view hierarchy is a constraint layout view. That's going to be right here, constraint. Every layout must have a root view that contains all the other views. So think about like your phone being a view, and then your app sort of layering for you to see it. Um, your phone has a view, you can see it, and then your app is building on that by adding stuff to that so that you can see buttons or you can see backgrounds and so on and so forth. The root view is always a view group, which is a view that contains other views. A constrained layout is an example of a view group. Notice that constrained layout contains a text view called text view first and a button called button first. This talks about if that code isn't showing. We're going to look at the XML code. Notice that the root element is android.constraintLayout.rigid constraint layout. The root element contains text view element and a button element. I already had went over that, but if we go to our XML code, constraint layout right here, our text view, and our button. Step 4, we're going to change property values. In the code editor, examine the properties in the text view element. We're going to click on the string in the text property, and you'll notice it refers to the string resource hello first fragment. Let me do that. So go ahead and go here. You can either view it just the XML code, or you can have both, whichever you prefer. Values strings XML opens with the strings highlighted. Here, I'll show you. We can also get to that through this right here. Values and strings. This is what I think they're trying to get us to, and it's, for whatever reason, not popping up for me. So what I did was I exited fragment first, which was this, where we were. You're going to go down to right here where it says values and click styles. I'm sorry. Go to values and click strings. This looks like the screen that they're using right here. String name equals hello first fragment, hello first fragment. That's this one right here. String name, quotation, hello first fragment, hello first fragment. So we want to be right here. If everyone is right here, this shows all the strings within our app. So number 4, we're going to change the value of the string property to hello world with an exclamation point. And we do that by deleting capital WORLD exclamation point. And now we've changed that string to hello world from hello first fragment. Okay, we'll switch back to fragment first. And we'll go to our screen here. I'm going to just go to design. If we look, it doesn't say hello first fragment anymore. It says hello world in the center now. All right, so yours should say hello world just like mine. we're going to select text view first in the component tree. Text view first. Look at the attributes panel on the right and open the declared attributes section if needed. These are the declare attributes. So right here, this section. Okay, so that's just a troubleshooting. Number 9, in the text field of text view, in attributes, notice it still refers to the string resource at string hello first fragment. So it should be right here, text at string hello first fragment. It's referring to this right here. Android.text or colon text. Having the strings in a resource file has several advantages. You can change the value of the string without having to change any other code. This simplifies translating your app to other languages because you store translators, because your translators don't have to know anything about the app code. And it says here for a note, to find a property in a list of all the properties, click on the magnifying glass icon of right of attributes and begin typing the name of a property. So let's say you couldn't find text. You can type it here and it should pop up to text. But this lets you know that this is the same thing that we were referring to right here as Android text at string hello first fragment directly refers to our text view first. And that's how you identify it, through that ID. The next step is for us to run it, I believe, and it should change from the hello first fragment to hello world. I'll run it for you guys. Sometimes people's emulators could take longer than others, so I figured we can just go ahead and move on. Here it goes. As you see, now it says hello world. Feel free to check that if you feel your computer's fast enough. All right, moving on. Step 5, change text display properties. So with text view first, still selected in the component tree, in the layout editor, in the list of attributes under common attributes, expand the text appearance field. And it says you might need to scroll down to find it. Okay. So we're still within the text view here, inside component tree. Text appearance within common attributes. Scrolling down on this attribute side, here's common attributes, and here's text appearance. Number 2, change some of the text appearance properties. For example, change the font family, increase the text size, and select bold style. So we'll do that. This should be popped up right here, but this does open and close or expand and retract. Font family we have is sans serif. You can change it to a different one. This just gives me different sans serifs, but you can also look for more fonts. I'll just go casual. Text size, let's go ahead and take this to 24. Now it's a little bigger. Color, click on that icon there. It's like a little black square at that moment, and then you can change your color to whatever you want. And this is how you would change your font. You can also select one at the bottom here that's like pre-made. I'll do that. Oops. And the last one was to bold it. So we'll click bold here. You can also click italics, so on and so forth, text alignment, left, right, just like in Word. And then that would be preset now for our app. Number 3 was change the text color. Clicking the text color, we already did that. This talks about the menu, showing pre-identified colors. This shows an example of text appearance attributes making changes. Okay, it wants us to look at the XML file for the text view, and you'll see that the new properties have been added to our code. If you notice that our text view here now has some added color, size, style. We bolded, we went to 24, and we changed the color to red. And you can see if you look at this icon, or not icon, I'm sorry. This right here shows you what color it is, this little example, and it's in line with our color. So if I was to change the color, that should change as well. See if I just change a number here. That's not a color, so it's like, what is that? All right, I messed it up because I thought I could just make my own color by typing a new random number. But anyway, let me go and rechange that real fast. If you change a different color here, I'll do that. Wait, cancel.
I bet it's the same. I bet it's the same numbers or as the one from the.
Here, I'll click this color, which is a different color, and you'll see it should pop up now. See, now it's pink. Let me try blue to make my point. And now it's blue. So that way you can keep track of what color it is instead of having to be like, hey, what color did I use? What is this? It has it right there for you. So the color doesn't matter. Pick whatever color you want. I'll leave it like that. All right, so it's asking us to run your app again, and you should see the changes have saved automatically. Let me go ahead and do that. There you go. Now it says hello world in italics, and it's blue. It's very easy to change the different components or attributes of our app without having to imagine having to click this and then going to the code and changing it. Like, everything just does it for you. It's very easy to just pick and choose and make it to the way that we want it, and the code will be added for us, which makes this an easy program to use. All right, step 6. In the attributes panel, scroll down until you find all attributes. If you don't see any attributes in the attributes panel, make sure text view first is still selected in the component tree. So make sure you're still selected text view right here. And scroll down. All attributes should be looking just like this in your attribute section. Scroll through the list to get an idea of the attributes you could set for text view. So these are the different attributes you can do for this text view. You can change the background. You can make it clickable. So if I wanted that to go somewhere to another page, you can make it clickable. These are all different attributes. Like, I don't want to go over all of them, but these are all different things you could do for this text. We change the font family. This gives every single thing we could change about this text view. Layout direction, constraints, height, margin, padding. These are all words that we've heard before if you've taken a client side. So here's the bottom where our text color, our text highlight. So if it was highlighted, there's a hint. Our size. Those are all the attributes. Let's go ahead and click next. Let's take a break here and join back in 10 minutes